Good morning. Today is Thursday, the 17th day of Sivan. And today we begin chapter 6 in Shaar, Yichud, vEmuna. And as we mentioned yesterday, we had the chapter 5, the end of chapter 4, and chapter 5 was a parenthetical note that the Alter Rebbe inserted here, explaining the whole idea of the tzimtzum, the restriction, and what is the ultimate purpose of this. And now the Alter Rebbe goes back to what he explained in chapter 4. We were talking about the two forces that Hashem uses to create the world. On the one hand, there is the force of kindness, the attributes of kindness, which is the endless giving unlike any kind of giving that we are familiar with, because this is a giving, an essential giving without any limits, any limitations. Giving also to create something from nothing and to give to that what you create. This is the chesed of Hashem. This is the kindness of Hashem. On the other hand, we explained that you need also the restrictive powers. And we also explained that when we're talking about restrictive powers, there are two types of restrictive powers. Here, restrictive powers, there could be to restrict, to make sure that you don't get, that people, that if you get too much, if there is too powerful of a light, you're not going to be able to see anything. You have to block it. You have to restrict the light. But when we're talking about Hashem's restrictive powers, it is the tzimtzum, the severities of Hashem is a severity that it comes also in a way of, it has a creative power. In other words, it is something, is the force of Hashem that takes the energy and he shapes it and gives it form to enable us to receive it. So it's not only blocking the light, it is somehow manipulating the light and giving us, from our perspective, a light that fits to our vessels. And he explained, he quoted the verse, Ki shemesh shemagen Hashem Elokim, like the sun and a shield, Hashem Elokim, the two names of Hashem. Hashem, God, the Yud Ki Vav Ki represents the giving, the power of chesed, the attribute of kindness and giving. And the word Elokim, the name of God, which is the name Elokim, obviously with a hey, that is the attribute of din, attribute of judgment and restriction. So we explained there the attribute of chesed, and now the Alter Rebbe is going to explain this name Elokim, how this attribute of restriction, the restrictive powers of Hashem, is something that is really a creative power that enables us to receive that light which is otherwise we wouldn't be able to receive. So example you can use, let's say you have a child, you want to teach a child something, a deep concept. But the child, if you're going to tell the child the deep concept the way you know it, he's never going to understand. He's going to lose you. What do? You restrict the knowledge, the message. You bring it in, use an example, use a metaphor. And the child may not understand the depth in the beginning, but the restriction is meant for the child to be able to understand. So here you have the restricting, which is a severity, because it's limiting the light, but ultimately it is in order to reveal the light. So the people in our level, with our vessels, will be able to receive the light of Hashem. Let's look inside the Tanya, chapter 6 of Shaar, Yichud, vEmuna. Says the Alter Rebbe, v'hine, Shem Elokim u'Shem Midas HaGevura ve'atzimtzum. You notice we don't say, we don't use the hey, we say a kuf instead of a hey, because this is the name of God. We're not supposed to pronounce the name of God in vain. So that's why we say Elokim. So he says the name Elokim is the name which indicates the attributes of Gevura and Tzimtzum. Gevura is judgment, Tzimtzum, restrictions, severities and restrictions. So he says something interesting here. It says, Velochein ugam begimatria hateva. Hence, it is also a numerical equivalent to the word hateva. Hateva means the nature. And the numerical value of these letters, each letter has a numerical value. Hey is 5, Tet is 9, Beis is 2, and Ayin is 70. So you come up with 86, and that's the same numerical value as the word Elokim, Aleph Lamed Hey Yud Mem. So what's the idea? So what is nature? What is Teva? Teva, the nature, in Hebrew, there's two different meanings that the word Teva is related to. You have Teva comes from the word Matbeya. Matbeya means a coin. A coin. What's the connection with coin? A coin is like when you mint a coin. You set the seal in the coin. You make set the shape of when you mint a coin. It's like setting in stone. So the words the Gemara used, Teva, Matbeya she tavu chachamim. Something that is set, and that is also the nature. The nature is set in stone. Everything, the sun rises every morning, it sets every evening. Everything looks like it's set. That as a constant, repetitive actions, and the way the world runs. Everything in a natural way, and you take things for granted. You think this is the way it is. That's the way it always was. That's the way it always will be. And that's the nature. This is the way Hashem they created the world, and He gave it the stability or the constancy that comes through the word, the name Elokim, and that which is Teva, the nature. And another word of the meaning of Teva, another meaning to that word, Teva, comes also from the word litvoa, or like we say in davening every morning, it says tubu b'yamsuf. Tubu means sunk. When the Egyptians sunk into the sea. So when someone sinks, what happens? The person it remains the same person, except that he's under the water. You don't see him. So the same thing here also. Elokim is the power of concealing and covering the truth. That you don't see the truth. You don't see the fact that Hashem constantly recreates everything. So this is the Elokim, that Hashem made the nature, the world, in a way that we do not see the ultimate truth. We don't see the essence of Hashem. We don't see the revealed godly energy and godly power. And why is that? Because if we would, we wouldn't exist. We would be completely nullified into the existence of Hashem. Continues the Alter Rebbe. So this is this is why it is numerical equivalent to the word hateva. For it, the divine name Elohim, conceals the supernal light that brings the world into existence and gives it life. It appears, and it appears as though the world exists without having to be constantly renewed, as if permanently programmed, and is conducted according to the laws of nature, independently of any supernatural influence. So that's what the Elohim is, gives it the natural look, the natural feeling. So the Alter Rebbe v'shem Elohim zeh u'mogin v'natek l'shem havaya, and this name Elohim says, not as it exists in its supernal source, but as it acts through the attribute of gevura, the attribute of restriction, so that the world appears to be conducted in a natural manner. So this name Elohim, it says, U'mogin v'natek l'shem havaya. This is a shield and a sheath for the name Havaya. As we explained, the name Havaya is a Yahoveh ve'yeh, or that was and he is and will be. And it's also Havaya, the Yud Kei Vav Kei is, like we explained in chapter 4, that from the word Haveh, which means the creation, and the Yud makes it constant, a constant creation. And this constant creation of Hashem is concealed by the shield and the sheath, which is the name Elohim. It says, Lehalim ha'oyer ve'achayus animshach mishem havaya u'mehave me'ayin leyesh. What it does, it's concealing the light and life force that flows from the name Havaya and brings creation into existence from naught, this being the purpose of Havaya. The name itself, meaning to bring into existence, as we just said. So this light, the life force, is concealed by Elohim. And why is it concealed? So that it should not be revealed to the creatures, which would thereby become absolutely nullified. If the godly revelation would be revealed, we would be nullified into the God's existence. Says the Alter Rebbe now. והרי בחינס גבורה זוי וצמצום הזה הוא גם כן בחינס חסד. Now he says something very interesting. He says the quality of this gevura and tzimtzum is also an aspect of chesed, an aspect of kindness. What does he mean when he's saying that the quality of this gevura, this tzimtzum, this restriction? So as we said earlier, that you have two types of tzimtzum. Sometimes you want to constrict and confine and reduce for the purpose of reduction. For example, let's say you are employed, you don't like your employer too much, he doesn't treat you well, but he invited you to his birthday and you have to bring him a gift. Do you want to give the gift? No. You give it really with your heart? No. You give it in a restrictive manner. You restrict. You do whatever you need to do. Hashem created the world. He created also, for whatever reason that we're not going into now, he created those forces of evil. And those forces of evil that we need to reject, but they are here. And how are they here? How do they exist? Because God makes them exist. For them, there is a tzimtzum, a restriction that is real tzimtzum, to conceal and to give them just as much as they need. That is a kind of tzimtzum that doesn't come from chesed, from kindness. But then the tzimtzum that we're talking about, the tzimtzum in order to create the world, in order to create us, in order for us to be able to contain and to appreciate and exist here with all the godly energy that we receive, this is a different type of tzimtzum. This is a tzimtzum, a restriction that comes out of kindness. Just like when you discipline a child. You discipline a child, and it seems very mean, but you know that your discipline is not out of anger. At least ideally, it shouldn't be out of anger. If it is, then it's a problem. But true education and disciplining children is something that comes out of love. You want the best for the child, so you discipline him. So this is gevura, restrictions, severities that comes out of chesed, out of kindness. That's what Alter Rebbe says here. Gevura zu, that this restriction, this gevura, this tzimtzum comes out of kindness. And that's what Alter Rebbe concludes in today's lesson. Again, b'chinas gevura zoi v'tzimtzum hazeh, ugam kein b'chinas chesed she'ha'olam yibane boi. The quality of this gevura and tzimtzum is also an aspect of chesed through which the world is built. V'zoi b'chinas gevura aklula b'chesed. And this is the quality of gevura which is included in chesed. Meaning this is a form of gevura through which an act of chesed is accomplished. As such, it is included within chesed. So this is the end of today's shiur. We shall continue tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem. Please join us, God willing, 9:15 tomorrow morning. And make sure to invite friends to join us live on the Zoom, or to subscribe and watch it later on YouTube and Facebook. All the best.